Howdy, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Follow the Leader. I'm your host, Lee Larson, and y'all, guess who I brought in from Billings, Montana? We got Cynthia Palmer here. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Folks, Cynthia Palmer is based out of Billings, Montana. She is a therapist and co-owner of HELIOS Counseling and Coaching of Montana. And you have traveled quite a bit. You've got the East Coast, you've got Greece, Great Falls, Billings.
Yeah.
And I am so looking forward to hearing how these shape your journey. But really your focus is all about generational cycles, healing trauma, personal agency. Can you talk to us? How did you get into that?
Well, before I kind of talk about my story, I have to share my mom's story because my mom, she was a little girl during World War II in Greece when the Axis powers, the Nazis, invaded her little village. And so at the age of 9, she watched 438 men over the age of 13 marched up to a cliff and shot. Um, I mean, they lived in a little village, maybe 30 miles away from Kalavita in Greece, in the northern Peloponnese. And so my mom experienced war, and literally having to eat grass for 6 months, living in the hills. Um, and then she moved to the United States. She met my dad, and he was a Greek American, and she moved to the East Coast, to Charleston, married my dad, and had two little children, my brother and I. And then my father passed away when she was 37 years old. My father passed away, and she wasn't even a citizen yet of the United States. So now she's experienced more loss. And back in those days, back in the 70s, women didn't have as many rights as they do now. So my mom just lost her sponsor, and she wasn't a citizen yet. She couldn't read, write, or speak English very well. My primary language was Greek because both of my parents spoke Greek. Here's this woman who's 37 with two young children in a foreign country, and in my mom's culture, especially in her family, very old-fashioned. Once you're a widow, you disappear into duty. You will wear black till the day you die. You tend to your family. You visit your husband's grave 2 or 3 times a day, and I am not exaggerating. Um, and my mom wasn't interested in that, so she had 4 brothers in Great Falls, Montana, and so she moved us to Montana. And then through the next few years, my mom married someone who was an alcoholic and very abusive. And then she got a divorce, which is a very embarrassing thing in our family. So this is the nervous system that shaped my nervous system. And so we talk about epigenetics, generational trauma, however you'd like to label it. And so we don't exactly inherit the emotional fire, but we inherit the smoke alarm that was installed, I guess, is a good way to put it, right? So every time there's like burnt popcorn and your smoke alarm goes off, it doesn't know it's not a house fire. And so when you've got that kind of smoke alarm, every little thing is a house fire when it's really just burnt popcorn. So this really interested me, and I remember starting to research occupations in 7th grade, and I started to think about psychology and therapy and things like that. And people always say, well, how long have you been a therapist? And I would say probably since 7th grade, but legally only for about, probably 25, 26 years. And so that's kind of how I stumbled into counseling. My mother was finally diagnosed with late onset schizophrenia. And she's also been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and bipolar with psychotic features. And she's no longer with us, passed away in 2020. This is what, this is probably what shaped me wanting to be a therapist, having my own experiences with my mother and seeing healing when you're able to be with someone else. And I really love what I do.
And I think that this research on epigenetics It's certainly people are talking about generational trauma, but there's still, at least the public, this information is becoming more and more mainstream. But can you take a second to kind of dive into like what is the generational trauma? You talked about the alarm system, but like, are there physiological or other traits that are being passed down?
Well, yeah, we always just think, your hair color and your eye color, but you also get, if you're predisposed to, say, addiction or anxiety or diabetes or high blood pressure or ALS, I could go on and on and on. And I mean, you inherit, like I said, you inherit this autonomic nervous system, and it has two branches. So you've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And you've got the parasympathetic nervous system, which is relax, rest, and digest. So if your default setting is always fight, flight, freeze, fawn, because that's what you learned from your environment and also from your genetics. And if you don't have a regulated nervous system and you didn't resolve the trauma, doesn't it make sense that you'd always be waiting for that fire? You'd always be on guard, kind of thing. And so it can be resolved because we also have neuroplasticity, and we have to learn this, right? And so we learn this through um, somatic experiencing that Peter Levine made popular. We learn this through, you can do breath work, you can do trauma release yoga, you can go see a therapist, you can engage in EMDR, accelerated resolution therapy, talk therapy. There's so many different modalities. One does not fit everybody. So some people have to do two or three. But it's just retraining your autonomic nervous system.
I appreciate that there is a autonomy, there's agency, is
Yes.
what I'm hearing from you. Um, and also, like, just you talking about the genetic and it being passed down makes me think um, women, when they carry eggs, don't they also carry the eggs of the generation beyond that too? So
Yes.
technically, one woman experiencing trauma now impacts two lines of soul like cells like and that blew my mind that
Yes.
so I was trying to prepare for this interview and I was like what and just going down a rabbit hole of epigenetics and it's a fascinating topic um and again going back to that agency because so much of trauma is that we don't feel like we had agency in the moment in some capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you typically work with women?
Ever since 2020, I mean, before 2020, I would say 85% women, 15% men. And I would say it's 40-60, 40 men and 60% women now. Because I think the one good thing that came out of COVID was awareness for mental health and that we're having a mental health crisis. I mean, we've been having a mental health crisis probably since, I don't know, the dawn of civilization, right? We just forget to talk about it. I mean, it's no different than asthma, diabetes. I mean, if you had diabetes, you'd take insulin, but we don't like talking about a chemical imbalance in the brain, but the brain's an organ, right? So, um, but mostly, when men come in here, they do have trauma, but it's not typically sexual assault or sexual abuse. It's more like, I don't think I was my dad's favorite. I think my brother was a baseball star and I was really smart and my dad was also a baseball star. So I'm I'm kind of odd man out here. And it's not even true, but this is the perception that the person got. So um but with women, it really is we're just not nice to each other as women either a lot of the times. And I don't see that with men. And I never hear a man come in here and complaining about how he feels treated by his buds or his mates or best friends, whatever you want to call it. Women are they're a little bit different. And so we're up against our own inner critic. And then sometimes I think we're up against other people in our in our circle. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. So trying to trying to talk about that a little bit too. We seem to be at odds with each other, and it's about competition. And so when I think about competition with men, it's more like I think my dad liked my brother better because he was a baseball star or a football star, and I was the the English scholar or the Rhodes Scholar or whatever. It's an interesting. It's just interesting, what I've observed over the past few years.
Well, and
Yeah.
there's and they're both clearly issues, but one seems like almost like unsure of their purpose in a hierarchy, and maybe another is trying to like I think about that a lot too, especially how women were so communal, we're so relational. Like the worst thing you can do is not have a group of girlfriends in middle school, right? Like in our heads.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
like how that popular girl group doesn't even really get along. And
Yes.
like just absolutely, I'm so glad you brought this up
Yeah.
about women abuse, like girl on girl abuse.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and where do you think all that comes from, or how is that shaped?
I mean, I feel like, honestly, if you think about how, I mean, just look at social media. Okay, it's much worse now. And I used to work in the ER, and girls would come in, and by our society standards, they were attractive young ladies, and they were coming in there ready to harm themselves or had already had an, uh, attempted suicide because they felt unattractive because a boy told them that because they're I mean, it just never ends. Your butt's too big, your butt's too flat, your boobs aren't big enough, your boobs are too big.
Yeah,
You don't have enough friends on Instagram. One girl told me this. Her boyfriend said, "You don't really have that many followers." And she said, "I'm a nursing student. I don't even remember the last time I brushed my teeth. I'm studying."
that's so.
And so
Well,
the
and
way
I go ahead.
Well, just the way the way that people are judged now, it's a whole nother thing. Because when I was a kid, back in the 70s and graduated in class of 85 from high school, we didn't have internet. It was beautiful. We didn't have the computer. We didn't have anything. We had a typewriter, and you went to football games, and you, you, you did stuff. You actually interacted with other people face to face. And now I don't even know if it's real half the things that you see on social media. So these poor kids are looking at all this stuff on social media, and I'm talking about young girls and young fellas. Um, you know, Young girls are becoming addicted to pornography just as quickly as young boys are now. It's so easy to get on this horrible demon here, and um, so I think we're like pitted against each other, and it's so much worse now. Before it was just magazines, but now we've got the social media, and we've got competition for who has more friends, who has more likes on Facebook, all this stuff that probably isn't even half the time real. And and then you start pitting yourself against, like, well, who has the nicest the richest husband, the best job, the biggest house, the cleanest house, whatever, the nicest children. Who my kids are going to uh, Ivy League school. I mean, we're just always competing, always. It's such a strange thing to me, um, and I find a lot of women once you leave your home and you're 18 and you can kind of get away from the fight, flight, freeze, fawn of your environment, we almost have to like insert ourselves in another environment that feels familiar so that we know what our role is. And then we just continue the role, if that makes sense, right? So um, I just, I just think it starts, it could be a little thing a teacher said to you. Well, your paper airplane doesn't look as nice as Bobby's. Why don't you let Bobby show you how to make a paper airplane? I mean, these things could be um, little. It could be just one little sentence somebody said, but because they were an authority figure, or an important person in that child's life, that now they've taken it to, oh, I guess I'm just not as good as Bobby or Susie or whoever, and we internalize these things.
No,
And
it's
that becomes our baseline belief about ourselves.
and it all comes from a place of scarcity, that
Yes,
competition. And then
yes,
you wind up hoarding, and then
yes,
it's an over consuming, and
yeah.
there's so much. Of course, we want, and then yes, competition does elevate and breeds innovation and all these wonderful things, but also this individual competition goes against community building, and
Yes.
kind of creates an every person for themselves, and I got to take you down in order for
Yeah.
me to stand. And it's just the world is just so much bigger than that. There's space for
Well,
all of us.
and yeah, and there's room for everyone to be loved and to be liked and to be um, adored. And I mean, everyone has the need for, to be loved and adored and valued. And the more you smile, it's not like if you smile and somebody else catches your smile, it's not like you're going to lose yours. I mean, the more you, the more you love on people, the more you're just spreading it around. It's not, there's no end to it. It's infinite. And I don't know I don't know what kind of messages we're getting from. I do believe, technology is valuable if it's utilized appropriately and in moderation. And I'm seeing a very big difference now in how young people are interacting with other young people. In fact, this was kind of an interesting thing. I went to my 40th high school reunion in July, and we were touring our school because it had some renovations done to it that were fantastic. And we have, and it's Great Falls High School in Great Falls, Montana. It kind of looks like Hogwarts. It's actually on the Historical Society. I think it was the fourth high school built in the United States. It's a beautiful school. And so they obviously had to upgrade it a little bit, and they added this amazing whole other wing where kids could, everyone now has an hour and 20 minutes for lunch. You have the same lunch. And when I was a kid, we had 5 lunches and they were like 25 minutes long. So we were like, oh my gosh, how exciting. You can, visit with your friends for almost an hour and a half. And the guy, the librarian, who's also the historian of the school, he said, they don't really do that. They all put their earphones in and they sit there and they're on their phones. And the saddest thing he told us was there's just not a lot of spectators during football and basketball and wrestling and things like that. And when I was a kid, that was the thing you did. That's where you'd meet your friends. That's where you would know where the party's going to be.
Right,
But now
right.
they're not doing that. They're so, I don't know what happened. I think the social interaction is reducing, and that's causing more competition in a non-productive way.
Right. Right. It's just creating insecurity and scarcity
Yeah.
without
Yes.
the sense of connection.
Yes. 100%.
I'm just thinking this is. I mean, you're hitting. I'm so excited that you're going to speak more on this next month at the Junior League Conference in Billings. Folks, that is March 27th. Please check out Junior League of Billings. It's their 10th annual Montana Women's Leadership Conference. And our guest, Cynthia, is going to be speaking there next month. Next week, by the way, is March. Next
Yeah.
month
I
is,
know.
is what I'm trying to. There's two different, but
I can't
Cynthia,
believe it's already March.
I know. January was glacial and February flew. So I am. But can you talk about what you're going to be speaking on at the conference next month?
Yes, I'm going to talk about, I'm actually going to use my mom and myself as a case study. And I'm going to utilize what happens when you have unresolved trauma and what happens to your children when you raise children with unresolved trauma. So my mom had experienced war, um, a widow, divorcee, domestic violence survivor. And he was a horrible, horrible stepdad. He abused my brother and I in different ways, and I'll talk about that too. And and then we're going to talk about how you can turn that around. And because my mom's nervous system raised me, and then I didn't get any help until I was in my 30s because I learned to be silent. Because when I did say things, I well, it just didn't work out very well for me. So I was always fawning. We have four choices. Our brain has three goals: safety, security, survival. And we have four choices: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And so fight is, kind of like predator danger. If, running from a saber-toothed tiger, running from a bear in Montana, it's a bear, or if you're a tourist, it's a buffalo, um, or a dog, right? Freeze is when you're in inescapable danger, such as, say, an active shooter comes into a building. You're going to want to pretend like you're dead, right? Like I've heard stories of people that would hide under people that have already perished from the active shooter because they want to feign death. So that's inescapable danger, right? Then we have flop. Well, there's actually six freezes. They just added two more. But flop would be when you're like, you almost like kind of like faint or pass out. And faint is one. And then we have fawn, which is relational danger. You're stuck with a really mean parent or teacher, and you're just trying to please them just to stay alive, right? And so these are the four choices we have. And so then when we leave those environments, when we turn 18 or we go to college or we, have like my solace was every weekend I'd be with my mom's my extended family, and I could see what it meant to have a healthy family. So that's how I learned to try to parent my children better. So this case study I'm also going to show people what happens when you wait around till you're in your 30s to get some help, because I was very rigid with my children when they were being raised. I needed everything to be perfect and all the things. And so, and now, I'm almost 60, so that's a little bit different now, how I deal with things, how I regulate, how I mostly stay in relax, rest, digest. So we're going to look at the case study between my mom and me, and then we're going to look at how neuroplasticity and synaptic pruning helps with, basically healing, right? And then we talk a little bit about, I do this exercise with rocks, where we have 5 rocks that are, things that, one rock says carrying. We're carrying other people's burdens because we don't have healthy boundaries and because we didn't learn how to have them. One is silence. We learn to stay silent because we get in trouble when we say things. One would be shame. We carry other people's shame. A lot of sexual abuse and sexual assault survivors, we will absorb the energy that's from the other person, and we carry that shame for so many reasons, right? And there's low self-worth, there's all the things. But in order to have the positive neuroplasticity, the positive regulated autonomic nervous system of voice, agency, self-worth, courage, rather than fear, we have to sort of like get rid of some of these rocks that we're burdening ourselves with. And so everyone's going to get a bag of rocks in the room that's going to be at the talk, and then they have to make a decision which ones do you want to keep. And I've done this with my clients where I'll meet them at the river and we'll kind of throw those rocks in the river. They're just not necessary. They were useful, right? Like we learned how to survive, and we're not gonna get rid of the lessons, because we all obviously became resilient from all of these things. It's just, we don't have to pretend like we're having a house fire every time it's just burnt popcorn. And so recognizing that smoke alarm for what it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and the smoke alarm, the neuroplasticity, I think it's beautiful that there's like, there's sort of almost like a before and after. Like you talk about, like you raised your kids this way, and then you started to address some of those rocks that you were carrying, and now you're a different type of mother. We're also seeing a lot of folks, particularly in light of our political landscape, separating from their parents. And have you seen any of that?
Oh, I've seen, it's so heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking because I'm seeing a lot of parents estranged from their adult children. And sometimes it's something kind of silly. It's about maybe how to raise your child, or I don't want anyone touching my baby because they have germs, and since you won't honor, you know, honor that, then I'm not coming over anymore for Sunday dinner. And then they just become estranged. Or I see a lot of parental alienation amongst divorced um, children of divorced parents. I see a lot of parental alienation. So I am seeing a lot of that, and I don't know. I think people don't know how to have healthy boundaries, so it's either all or nothing. And I spend a lot of time talking about healthy boundaries.
That's so important because that's there's a lot to parse out, and so much, and it's interesting. It, there is so much narrative about rebuilding the family in America, and also we're seeing some of the most drastic family alienation that we might have seen in American history going on at the same time. So it makes sense that there would be this overemphasis on family while others are trying to figure out what family means to them. And uh,
Yeah,
it's just a lot of really intense ideologies, and it seems like our whole country just kind of got shaken up,
yeah,
in a Coca-Cola can or something. And
I know. And it's really, I've seen it, Lee, since I'd say 2020 when we had to make the decision to vaccinate or not vaccinate, to wear a mask or not wear a mask, to vote red or blue, to and I just I would like to challenge people to say, I'm curious to understand why you are or not um, voting, why you are or are not wearing a mask, why you are or are not vaccinated. Help me understand. I want to be curious about this, and I don't want to judge. I want to understand. And we're not understanding anymore. It's either my way or the highway. I'm right and you're wrong. But what if we're both right? What if we're both right? You know? It kind of comes down to respect, and we can respectfully disagree. I mean, I drive an import and I have friends that drive Chevys, okay? I mean, am I going to go to the point where if you don't drive the same color of car as me, I can't be your friend? It's almost that silly.
in terms of, yes, purity politics has gotten just so intense, and it's turning off a lot of folks. And um, I think also it's nice to it's not nice to have everything so ugly and up and out, but just like you said, like being forced into positions, and then you get in your tribalism, and then you remember, like, hold on, like there's still humanity and relationships to be built, for a
Yeah.
lot of different, some things can't ever align on, but there's still so much conversation, and I'm thankful you brought that up. One thing, and I know that we um, when you're talking with your therapist, sorry, you are the therapist. When you're talking with your clients, you've talked about this mix of women and men now. What ages are you seeing?
Well, I only like to see adults. I used to work with children and I couldn't affect as much change. And I maybe I'm a little selfish. I want to see the fruits of my labor a little bit more than I was. And so I only work with adults, and typically they're probably at least 25 up to about 75. Yeah. And I really enjoy working with that population. Yeah.
Absolutely. Does shape your travel? We talked earlier how you've been on the East Coast and you've been in Greece and Great Falls and now you're Billings. How did your East Coast or your Greek experiences impact your counseling?
Well, um, gosh, people are, I find people are more closed off on the East Coast. And in Greece, I was just a young girl when we lived there. Um, People are more accepting, I feel, in Europe. I've been there, I've traveled um, as an adult back to Greece and Italy, and people are not really as competitive as they are there. So, as far as counseling goes, in Montana, it's interesting because we're always one of the top three for highest suicide rates. We always are competing with Alaska and Wyoming. It's not like something you want to win, but because I think we're so rural, right? We're very rural in Montana. And in Montana, we want to cowboy up. And we still need, I mean, we still, if you're a diabetic, you need your insulin. If you have depression and you don't have enough serotonin, you probably would benefit from a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an antidepressant. If you have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or attention deficit disorder and you have too many apps open in your brain, wouldn't it be kind of fun to shut some down so you could actually just get that one thing done you need to get done? Um, and so I see a lot of shame with mental illness in this region. And I do see since 2020, we have we have reduced the stigma of mental health in the Northwest. Yeah.
Well, and thank you for your part in that. And I knew that the mental health was really poor in Montana, but you make a great point. Like this whole cowboy up, and it's like, what? At some point,
Yeah.
being tough is not it's not what's comforting.
No, no.
Being tough can keep you alive, but it
Yeah.
can be dehumanizing very quickly.
Well, and it takes a lot of courage to ask for help and to get help, whether it's just because you have a sinus infection or you are not wanting to wake up tomorrow. And I mean, a lot of men are not interested in going to the doctor for something as simple as a sinus infection, right? Until they get that antibiotic, they're not getting any better. It's no different.
No, it's not. You got to take ownership of yourself first. And
Yeah.
um, well, I know that we're heading towards the end of this. I have to say this, and for those who are watching this, you see it as plainly as I do, but for those who don't have the opportunity and are listening, Cynthia has gorgeous, gray, beautiful hair. Like it is voluminous. It has got curls and waves. It's just you have gorgeous
Thank you.
hair.
Thank you.
And we spoke right before this call about the beauty, the privilege of aging, and how to age to have silver hair is to have wisdom, and it is to be so fortunate because people don't get to get age. Um, Talk about embracing your silver hair and what that has done for yourself.
Yeah, well, I think I just one day woke up because I've been dyeing my hair since I was 26. When I had my first child, which was my son, he gave me gray hair. He's a great kid, but he still gave me gray hair. And back in those days, I didn't want to have gray hairs. Um, I think when I was about 51 or 52, I'm 58 now, I said, I'm just done. I'm dyeing my hair every 3 weeks. I can't afford this anymore. I'd rather spend my money somewhere else and my time, quite frankly. I actually decided I kind of like it. And that's when I noticed how unkind women can be to each other because I had all these comments. I started doing this in 2019, and I had all these comments from my friends and even strangers like, what's going on? Like something's wrong with that I quit dyeing my hair, I guess. Um, and a couple years ago, I was in Naples, Florida, and a gal was literally chasing me down the street with a little sample of eye cream for my wrinkles. And she wanted to help me understand that if I use this eye cream, that I could look younger. And I kept saying, no, thank you, no, thank you. And I mean, she followed me for like probably a fourth of that block. And I just turned around and I said, I like my gray hair and I like my wrinkles. I like that I get to grow old. And she finally left me alone. But it's almost like we're irrelevant once we hit the age of 35 in this country. And in Greece, when I was a little girl, the elders, men and women, were very revered. They still are, actually. And we would go to them for advice for anything. And I don't see that happening in this country as much. And it's really sad because there's so much wisdom. I used to work in a nursing home, and I love talking to the people there because they know everything. They know so much, and we just don't, we're not doing that anymore. We're not multi-generational in this country like we are in other countries. And I guess I'm not embarrassed to grow old. And I went to my 40th high school reunion last July, and there's a tree at the reunion dedicated to the people they don't have the ability to come to the reunion because they're no longer with us. And I just thought how sad it is for them that they're not alive anymore. And they would be so happy to have gray hair and wrinkles and all the things that you get with aging, like spending more money at the dentist and having eyeglasses, whatever. But it's just nothing to be ashamed of, right? This is what we're supposed to do.
It absolutely is. And I've let my grays come out. I don't know if
You're
you start to see them.
gorgeous.
It's bad on my TikToks, but someone started calling out to me the other day, and I was like, this is wisdom. These are
Yeah,
battle scars. Like,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
I survived what I survived, and these are the gray hairs I got from it. So I love that perspective of there's
yeah.
so many people that we have lost along the way that would love to have the
Yep.
grays that we have.
Well,
So
we get to grow old. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. Just like being on your show, it's a privilege.
absolutely. Well, tell me, I mean, Cynthia Palmer, Helios Counseling Services in Billings. How can we learn more about you?
Well, I have a website. It's real simple, helioscounseling.com. Helios, HELIOS, and then counseling.com. And we offer counseling and coaching. We do EMDR when we have a certified coach here. We do talk therapy. We do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We see some of the therapists here see children. I prefer to see adults. And yeah, so we're happy to offer our services. We love what we do. Um, yeah, I love to interact with people. So I consider myself very privileged to be able to walk alongside people in their journey.
Absolutely. Well, before we head off, are there any parting words you'd like to leave with the audience?
I think if there's one thing I like to do myself, and I think it's important for everyone to do, is every morning when you wake up, even if it's one thing, if you could do one, three, or five, what are one, three, or five things you're grateful for today? Because our brain is wired to look at what's wrong with our world, with our body, with our um, with our situation. We have to fight our own biology to see what's right with it. And so I'm just going to challenge everyone to think about one, three, or five things every day you wake up, and that's how you start your day, with gratitude. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining us today.
Thank
Listeners,
you.
what y'all think? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, just your story is incredible.
Thank you, Lee. I'm looking forward to meeting you as well.
Well,
Yeah.
folks, let me know. What did you think of this? What did you think of Cynthia Palmer, Helios Counseling Services? Make sure to follow up if you are interested in mental health care and taking that right step for you. Folks, let me know in the comments what you thought. Like, follow, subscribe. You know the drill. Otherwise, I'll see y'all next time. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.